What a pleasure it is to be here before each of you today. I really appreciate you taking the time out to be here and the efforts of the Conservation Foundation, Brooke and Jan, and everyone else. So thank you. Just to give you a little bit more information about me, besides being Sage's former college professor, I am a professor at Loyola University. I teach social work there, and my research, teaching, and practice interests all revolve around mindfulness-based practices, mindfulness-based interventions for mental health, but also for holistic health and wellness. I also have a company in Geneva called Wellness. And there, my mission is really to try to reach as broadly as I can with the messages of mindfulness. And I do workshops and trainings and classes on mindfulness-based stress reduction, and trainings in the corporate sector, hospitals, and schools. And a really cool thing that I do also is I do international retreats. So I've taken participants to Costa Rica as well as to Thailand over the summer. So a little bit of an eco-adventure is always good, at least for my soul. So today our topic is mindfulness in nature. It's not the health benefits of trees, so I hope that doesn't disappoint anyone here. Although trees are very healthy, and we'll talk a little bit about trees in some form today. So a little bit of background about what we're going to be talking about today is recent research suggests that practicing mindfulness in natural settings, such as forest preserves, parks, gardens, near water, and even in our own backyards, improves mental and physical health, increases happiness and feelings of contentment, and reduces pain and stress. So the objective today is to discuss the implications of current research as well as practical, evidence-based applications of mindfulness in nature. So I think we're all in the right place, right? Good. I want to first start off by talking about a couple of meta-analyses. And in case, just so we're all on the same page, in case you don't know what a meta-analysis, it is an analysis of analyses. So basically, you researchers are searching for evidence on a couple of common variables or a couple of common factors, and they search research bases. They locate published and unpublished literature, all based on the common factors of what they are looking for. And then they pool together all of the data sets to come up with an effect size. And essentially the effect size is supposed to determine how effective a particular intervention is. So in the case of this first meta-analysis that was published in 2015, it examined natural environments and emotional well-being. And they found 32 studies with a total of over 2,300 participants who were included. And the results of the study were small and significant effect sizes. The researchers concluded that exposure to natural environments was associated with a moderate increase in well-being, more so than the control groups. And one of the cool things about meta-analyses, particularly this one, is that it doesn't focus on just one small demographic. It looks at all studies that were published and unpublished. And this study happened to have been conducted in 6 different countries across 3 continents, Europe, North America, and Asia. In another meta-analysis that was conducted in 2014, there were over 8,500 participants who were included. So you can see sort of how efficient meta-analyses are. So instead of looking for one particular data set, one particular study, you go to a meta-analysis and it's all done right there for you. And in this study, researchers examined those that identified with being connected to nature and happiness. And also, small and significant effect sizes were shown. The study concluded that those who are more connected to nature tended to experience more positive effects. Vitality, life satisfaction, compared to those who were less connected to nature. The researcher also suggested that nature connectedness associations were the strongest between happiness and the inclusion of nature. The other ones were very strong as well, but one between happiness and nature was the strongest associations. And I think probably most of us here we can get those results. We might not have needed 8,500 people to tell us that, what we already know here. It's nice to be validated though, right? And this meta-analysis, the studies were conducted in several countries as well, and continents, including North America and Europe. So let's talk a little bit about what mindfulness means and how I'm using that in the context of this presentation. So mindfulness, as John Kabat-Zinn defines it, is moment-to-moment, non-judgmental awareness. It's paying attention to each moment on purpose with intention. Mindfulness can be seen as an umbrella term for many different types of meditation practices. Okay? And for many, probably including most of us in this room, natural settings is much more of an effortless, mindful practice. I know for myself, one of my favorite practices in nature is hiking. I love hiking. I go as often as I can. And I even joke with my family that I hike so they can live another day. Okay? It can be effortless for many of us. Mindfulness is also shifting from our doing selves to our being selves. And what that is because we're busy. We've got a lot going on. Probably just getting to this conference today, to this amazing summit, you might have been quite in doing mode. Especially if you were like me and actually passed this place up one time around and then had to turn around, and I wasn't really focusing on everything that was going on within the environment. I was just wanting to make sure that I was here on time to be with all of you. And in our society, we are often on autopilot. So instead of kind of taking things in as they're presenting themselves, as they really are in reality, it's almost like the movie Star Wars when they're out in space and the stars are kind of moving past them and they're going very quickly, moving quickly through space. So shifting from that mindset to the being mindset, and that is seeing someone for who they are, acknowledging the color of their hair, how we are doing in our own mental state, and just those things that are around us. There are both formal and informal types of mindfulness practices. So a formal practice would be something that we carve time out for. So, for example, if my intention was to go for a hike and is to engage in a mindfulness practice, that would be much more of a formal type of practice. I'm carving time out for that. Like we carve time out to go to the gym, things like that. It's more of a formal, purposeful practice. And then there are informal types of mindfulness practices. And those are things that we can build in day by day, moment by moment. So right now, I am engaging in an informal mindfulness practice. I'm trying to take in this amazing opportunity, take in all of your amazing faces, and all the eyes that are on me right now. And what it is that I'm speaking about, and looking for sort of acknowledgement that you're getting what I'm saying and paying attention or what that might be. So those informal practices are those things that we infuse day to day. So a conversation, eating, driving can be a very mindful practice when that is our intention. Nature, as you know, affords us many opportunities to be mindful. This, by all means, is not an exhaustive list of ways that we can engage in nature and be mindful. But I just want to go over a couple of my favorites. These are actually among all of my favorite. As I had mentioned before, hiking is one of my favorite pastimes. It's one of my favorite opportunities to connect with nature. And fortunately, we live in such a wonderful area where forest preserves and paths are just a stone throw away. There's one literally behind my house. I live in Oswego in Kendall County. We have the Sawaki Park along the river that's that's one of my go-to places. Really enjoy being there. And I also enjoy horseback riding. And I don't get to do that often. I don't have horses. But when I get an opportunity to horseback ride, I'm all about it. It just tends to be when I'm on vacation. And the really cool thing about horseback riding is that when you're riding a horse, it's almost like you're riding a mirror. You have like a very large biofeedback machine underneath you, because that horse picks up on your emotions, on your confidence, on your anxiety. You can see it through the ears shifting around. You can see it through them squatting with their tail if they don't think that you're an experienced rider, if they're not confident in you. And then they feel settled in as you feel settled in. Another one of my favorites is, of course, nature-based tourism. So not only is that something that I do, but that's due in terms of my work at Vita, but it is also something that I really enjoy. And we have, my family and I, we have a little criteria of the types of vacations that we take. There's got to be water, okay? And there's got to be some really cool environmental quality about our vacation. So there's got to be something natural, something that we can really dig our feet and dig our hands into. And another are labyrinths. And what's so cool is that labyrinths are popping up all over right now. So again, if you look closely enough, you will find that there's probably a labyrinth near you that is available to the public. I have a friend who installs labyrinths. Her and her husband are a team. They design them, they put them in all over the world. And she was telling me that people are now installing labyrinths in their backyards. And I thought, wow, that must be really costly. And she's like, not so much. People do them with lavender, they do them with garden stones, and then there are, of course, much more elaborate backyard labyrinths as well. We just installed one at Aurora University this fall. So if you have no other place where you know that there's a labyrinth, come on down to AU, and we're welcome. We'd be more than happy to welcome you there. So there's a growing research base on mindfulness. I would imagine that everybody in this room has heard the term probably more than once. And often when you have something that is very popular, was on the cover of Time magazine a couple of years ago, we kind of risk going into McMindfulness territory, right? So research is trying to do its job to keep mindfulness on its toes in terms of it being an evidence-based practice, and researching the effectiveness of the different types of mindfulness. I'm on Facebook, and I was scrolling through last night, and one of our adjunct professors posted a picture on Facebook yesterday she ate at our school cafeteria, and Sodexo is our food provider on campus, and she posted a picture of a soup bowl, and on that soup bowl it said, mindful soup. So even somehow soup, which doesn't have a mind last I checked, okay, has become a mindfulness type of product. So we have to kind of watch that and really keep our thumb on what the current research says, and know that it is not a cure-all for everything that ails us. Mindfulness can be a method for enhancing experiences and positive health outcomes. A significant amount of evidence exists that a regular mindfulness practice leads to a reduction of stress, anxiety, depression, ADHD symptoms, and pain reduction. Outside of my responsibilities at AU and at Vita, I volunteer at Waterford Place Cancer Resource Center. And there I teach mindfulness, I teach meditation, and I teach yoga to participants with cancer and their loved ones. It's an amazing facility if you're not already aware of it. And you know someone who's impacted by cancer, look them up. It's run all by volunteers. In fact, Sage was was an intern there last year. And one thing that just fills me up, my dad calls them fill-ups. So one of those things that really fills me up inside is when we're done with a mindfulness practice with the participants there. I'm consistently getting feedback that this is the first moment that they're not experiencing pain as a result of their cancer diagnosis or their cancer treatment. And those that continue their practices at home report back that their pain levels decrease just in general, and that they're feeling much less anxiety and less depression, which those things usually go hand in hand with a cancer diagnosis. Mindfulness, when practiced in natural settings, may help enhance and strengthen the positive effects of being in nature and connecting with the environment. What a great marriage, right? Mindfulness and nature, perfect union. And studies on neuroscience found that mindfulness builds connections and gray matter in the brain in regions responsible for attention, executive functioning, and a decrease in the size of the amygdala. This creates pathways for orienting attention, self-regulation, increased mental flexibility and compassion, and a reduction of the stress response. So what all of that means is when practicing mindfulness, we begin to engage our executive functioning, which is primarily located in the frontal lobe of the brain. That is, those are part of our attention centers of our brain. So just like anything else, when we practice something, we become better at it. And so we develop gray matter, and those neurons and those neural connections build up within the brain. And then the amygdala, which is located in the center part of the brain, which is partly responsible for igniting the stress response or the fight, flight, and freeze response. Then the amygdala is shown to decrease in size, which is a really good thing. Because when it's decreasing, it is showing that it is not being used as often or with as much intensity as it had before. So if we are operating in a stress response kind of mode, if we have a lot of significant life stressors that are going on, like someone with a cancer diagnosis, for example, or if we just have super busy lives, we often are operating in stress mode all the time. And so we're actually practicing stress. And then the amygdala grows. And then we begin to have fight or flight and freeze responses to things that aren't necessarily life-threatening, like maybe an email from your boss, right? Okay, a phone call. Ooh, God, heaven forbid that we actually get a phone call anymore. Who's calling? It's a telemarketer or someone's at the door. Be aware, careful, they answer the door. Okay. Instead of the amygdala being used for those things that really is meant for life-saving things, like maybe a few days ago when your car started to skid because of the ice and you were pretty close to running into another car. Without thinking, your body reacts, and the intention there is for your body to react in order to save your life. Current research on nature and wellness. So what we're finding is spending purposeful time in nature promotes overall wellness, happiness, contentment, and reduces pain and stress. Feelings of connectedness to nature is shown also to influence pro-environmental behavior. And I saw when I was sitting here over break that there was a slide that went up, and it said, in order to connect to nature, we need to protect it. So not only by being in nature do we feel more feelings of happiness, contentment, life satisfaction, a greater sense of well-being, but it also influences our pro-environmental behavior for conservation, for wanting to protect our natural resources. And similarly, a disconnection from nature may cause poor psychological health. So I don't know about you, I love what John had said a little bit ago about there's no bad weather, just bad clothes. I'm totally going to borrow that and steal that from me. That was great. So if you have the bad clothes, okay, you may not be as connected to nature over the past several weeks and with the holidays and things like that, and you may start to be feeling some of the effects of that. And we even know that from a medical standpoint, that not being exposed to enough sunshine can make us feel depressed, seasonal affective disorder, okay? So nature, not being in nature does have some consequences, even if there are people in your lives who don't really love nature and are more indoor type of people. So we're going to shift and we're going to begin talking about different types of mindfulness practices. And by all means, again, this isn't an exhaustive list of ways that you can engage with nature in a mindful way. but some of the good ones and some of the ones that I practice and that I encourage others to practice and I hear that are very successful. And this particular photo I found because I actually really wanted to insert a picture of my daughter in here. And she begged me not to. So I told her I would find another picture that captures what it is that I wanted to communicate here. And so this picture reminds me of a few moments that I had with my daughter when she was about 5. My daughter's name is Gianna, and I never speak without bringing up her name at least once, and she loves that, okay? And when she's 15 now, and when she was about 5, we used to go park hopping all the time. And again, we live in such a great area where there's an abundance of parks a stone throw away. And we landed at our favorite park, which is in Oswego. Again, has my favorite elements, water and trees, so it's right on the Fox River. And at that time, I was on the doctoral program at Loyola, so she would play, and then I would basically have my nose in a book, reading for class or preparing for dissertation or whatever it was that I was doing at that time. So go to the park, she plays, she does her thing, and then tick-tock, it's ready, we have to go. Okay, so I'm now shifting from doing mode to doing mode. Okay, she's still in her being mode, and we'll be shifting into her being mode even still, right? So I call her, Gianna, come on, let's go. And I'm picking things up, and then I look over at her, and she has an oak leaf in her hand. And my first, what I wanted to say quickly was, what are you doing playing with a leaf? Drop that thing, let's get going. I've got things to do. But life had presented this little moment, which I believe is a sacred pause we get every once in a while. And that's that pause between stimulus and response. And I saw her with this leaf. She was holding it up to the sun, moving it back and forth. She was bringing it closer to her face, farther away. She was turning it over. She was feeling the texture of the leaf, moving her finger around the perimeter of the curves of the oak leaf. She was smelling it. And I thought, she's got a lot to teach me about being curious and taking a moment. And she was seeing that leaf as though that was the first time that she had seen leaves. And it wasn't, I promise you that. It wasn't her first exposure with leaves. And then she grabbed that leaf and she brought it home. We put her in her car seat. She asked me all these questions about the oak leaf, where the oak tree came from. And she's like, you mean like that came from hundreds and hundreds of years ago? From an acorn? And I mean, she was just captivated. We got home, she got construction paper out, crayon, started tracing the oak. We had oak leaf pictures with crayon patterns all over our house. And that brings me to my first mindfulness practice. And that is exploring nature with curiosity. So being curious with an open mind about the experiences that you are having, even if you've had similar experiences before. Having an encounter as though it was the first time that you've had this encounter, because technically it is. Although my daughter had seen leaves many times before, she hadn't seen it in that particular daylight, at that particular time of the year, because we know leaves change, right? Especially as it was falling to the ground. In particular mood and emotional state that she was in. And it became a practice within itself of just taking things in and being curious. So in order for us to be able to facilitate those efforts, sometimes we have to work a little harder for that. So we can do different types of things in order to help become a little bit more curious about our surroundings, especially if our surroundings are a little bit more routine, if it's a path that we often make, for example. So maybe heading down from the trail from the other side, or switching the responsibilities of setting up camp. Take a different path, or talking with the locals, etc. I'm sure you can think of many different ways of being curious about your environment. Another is intention setting. So setting an intention on what you'd like to focus while you're in nature. And that could very well be your intended purpose on journeying out to nature to begin with. A feeling or a thought of what you'd like to obtain or let go of and be more aware of. Perhaps even dedicating to someone or something while you're going. Recently, my hikes have been dedicated to my dad. My dad has spinal stenosis, and he's in a lot of pain. And if anybody has taught me anything about nature, it's been my dad. I can still hear his morning cup of coffee hitting our table in our three-season room in the house that I grew up in. And as he was just sitting out there looking at nature, totally in being mode, not in doing mode, not having a phone or a TV on, just sitting there enjoying his cup of coffee, just watching nature in the morning. So oftentimes I dedicate that to my dad. And as I'm walking the paths and thinking, I'm really happy that I get to be standing on both my legs and not feeling pain throughout my back, I think, this is for you, Dad. And he appreciates that. He loves to be thought of. So he'll be really happy to know I brought him up today. And you can revisit your intention throughout your time in nature. It's like, hey, there you are, Dad. I gotcha. You're with me. Another mindfulness practice is one-pointedness. And some of these might begin to sound a little bit similar, okay? Because there's definitely some overlap. And that is practicing intentionally focus on one area of interest at a time. So that helps with that notion of shifting from doing to being. And recognizing when you're distracted, and then gently bringing your attention back to your point of focus. Another key piece is practicing non-judgment and being an observer of your experience as opposed to being reactionary of your experience. And this practice alone, the whole piece of bringing your attention back when you notice that it's gone adrift and bringing it back and doing so gently and kindly with non-judgment, is the practice that really helps to enhance and build the attention centers in the brain and reducing the amygdala. And this may, again, be applied to any of the practices that we've talked about so far. Another is exploring the senses. And this also might be helpful when you're needing a little bit more help about being curious. And that is going through each of the 5 senses and focusing on one sense at a time. And you can also consider moving through each of the 5 senses. Oftentimes, our visual senses, our sense of touch and our sense of hearing offer a lot more. And then we have to work a little bit harder for the sense of taste or for the sense of smell. But that might mean that we're picking something up and we're smelling it, okay? So it really just gives us that opportunity to take on a different perspective and to see things really as they are and grow our awareness. And depending on your activity, it may be the whole point of your time in nature anyway. So when I go to the ocean, part of my intention of going to the ocean is not only to see its beauty, but to listen to the sound of the ocean. Going swimming, feeling the resistance of the water, feeling the water move across my body as I'm swimming. Or building a campfire and feeling the warmth of the campfire, watching for bald eagles at the river, or tasting food. Food is nature, okay? Most of the time, it's nature. And the final practice is that of loving kindness. And this practice, you can definitely experiment around while you're in nature, but this is also a way of bringing nature closer to you and into your heart. So loving kindness practice is one that promotes gratitude, kindness, connectedness with self, others, the environment, and expands eventually to all beings and to the universe. And there's a lot of research, recent research on gratitude as well. And gratitude promotes wellness and contentment. So we've got like the trifecta here, don't we? Nature, mindfulness, and gratitude. And a loving kindness practice goes something like this, and you're welcome to kind of sit back and take this in if you would like. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be peaceful. May my near and dears be happy, be well, and be peaceful. May all beings be happy, be well, be peaceful. May the environment be happy, be well, be peaceful. May the universe be happy, be well, and be peaceful. And may you be happy, may you all be well, and may you all be peaceful. Thank you so much for this